علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So, I know we're kind of stretching this out further and further and further, but I just want to quickly go over just want to quickly go over how do I do this? Guess it's not really designed for that. I just wanted to go over the quizzes really, but let's just look over them like this. I don't need to do full screen, inshallah. That's fine. Okay, so let's quickly look over the quizzes. I know some of you did not do it, which is fine. But let's look over the questions, okay? Just very quickly, inshallah, 5 minutes and we'll move on. So feel free to type, feel free to use your voice, whatever. So Islamic marriage is ideally supposed to be based on love and mutual understanding and respect. Forgive my typos. So I think everybody got that right. There's nobody, it says, does it have to be based on love though? Right. So here's a question: is it haram? Right. If we look at our Western paradigm, in the West, it is considered immoral to get married for convenience. Right. Like if you said this person, like, why did you marry this guy? Oh, because he's really wealthy. They're like, oh, that's really bad. Like that's not good. You can't say that. And you're like, why not? Why can't I marry this guy because he's really wealthy? I don't understand. Right. That's considered bad. Right. If, for example, some guy from who's like in his 50s went to a third world country and married a teenager, and just because she was young and physically young, and she married him just because he can provide her financial stability, that would be considered bad. That would be considered basically abuse from his side because he's abusing the fact that she needs money. It's just all wrong, right? Because in the Western paradigm, marriage is supposed to be about love. Like if there isn't love in the relationship, then it shouldn't get married, right? But is that actually immoral? Like, is that actually, or even un-Islamic? Like, I, I'm eating every 3 days. My electricity is continually cutting out in my house, and my parents suggest to me that if you got married, perhaps life would be easier for you and for us because, you know, and for him, he is committing zina. Um, and so he's like, well, why don't I just do things in a halal way? So is that actually wrong for somebody in their 50s to marry a teenager or a teenager to say, I just want money, so I'm just going to get married just to have financial stability? Is that actually wrong? It's not. And so for our criterion, we're going to say, is it halal? It's halal, number one. Number two, what is your intention? So money for the sake of money is bad. Okay. Or just marrying somebody because they're attractive, just for the sake of being attractive. That's not really Islamic. Okay. But you say, why did you marry somebody who's attractive? To protect myself from the haram. Why did you marry somebody who is wealthy? Because I need an income and this will provide me with this and this and this. So in reality, we look at it in a bit of a wider way, right? So it is true, right? It should be, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that of his signs of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not just makes love between them, but makes mawadda. Mawadda is like the ultimate love. Like there should be this genuine thing, like I really care about you, right? You know, and even in the case of a divorce, it should be based on love. Like, listen, we're just hurting each other again and again and again. Let's just stop doing that, right? Not animosity. Like there should never be this feeling where I genuinely want bad for this person or I don't care. So being callous, like I honestly don't care about what you feel. That's not good. In fact, that's haram. You can't be like that. And you cannot be in a situation where like you just don't even understand each other, right? Like there has to be some kind of attempt to like understand where's that person coming from. Like, you know what I'm saying? So obviously, but there are some nuances there. Push comes to shove, find husband's word. Fine. If the wife leaves the house against the husband's explicit request, he may not stop her. Nobody said yes. So you guys all sound like it's like proper misogynists, by the way. I want you to be cognizant of that. That I'm looking at like if you showed this quiz, like the answers, you sound misogynistic to me, i.e., at least in the Western paradigm. Would you agree with me? Because it says if the wife leaves the house against her husband's explicit request to do so, he may not stop her. Right? No, they're correct. I'm not saying that they're wrong. What I'm trying to say, Sister Fahmia, is that I need you to put in your head that actually we are all Westerners. We think as in a Western paradigm, and we're trying to change that paradigm. So what you sound like now is you sound like somebody who is really weird in a Western paradigm. I'm looking at the quiz answers. I'm not saying that this wrong, right? So he may not stop her. So he may physically stop her, correct? He may tell her off, correct? He is not obliged to provide for her for that day. We didn't cover that, but that is also the case. Okay, so nobody answered that question. So here's when you again push comes to shove, right? When push comes to shove, he says, "Don't leave the house." She's like, "Well, I'm leaving the house. Watch me." Okay, he is not obliged to support her for that day. If she leaves the house, she came back in the afternoon. Say, "Well, I'm home now. I'm sorry." So okay, I'm not obliged to support you today, then, right? So if she does not keep to her side of the bargain, he's not obliged to support her for that 24-hour period, right? So again, we shouldn't work on this level, right? We shouldn't be working. Well, I'm not. I'll stop. You can eat tomorrow morning. That's a bit weird, right? It's a bit strange. Most men would not do that. But in principle, right? And it could be relevant. It could be relevant if, let's say, for example, they had an agreement where they are not living together. Okay, she said, "Listen, I don't need to live with you. We don't want to have kids right now. I don't want to live with you. Just pay me, a monthly thing. We're going to agree on a monthly thing. You're going to pay for my food, drink, housing, whatever, and just pay me that money." Okay. So now they had an argument or whatever, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm busy." He's like, "No, well, you can't always be busy." He said, I'm busy. I'm traveling." So, okay, well, I'm not going to pay you for this portion of the month. And she's like, "Okay, don't pay me." You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So some of these things it also depends on what kind of Islamic relationship are we talking about, right? It is Islamic as long as they have good intention and as long as they are keeping to the Sharia, but it's not always the same, right? So question, if a man stops his wife taking care of her sick mother, okay? So she says, "I really want to look after my mom. She needs help." I'm like, "Sorry, I'm not letting you. I understand that is not your obligation." And I'm saying no. She's like, "I have to go. I'm gonna go. I'm sorry." Okay? So then she leaves. Okay? She does not deserve, she does not have a financial right to be supported. Okay? So then later on he changes his mind. That's fine. Right? So it's not that he's obliged not to provide for her, it's that she doesn't have the right to be provided for. Does that make sense? So if they don't agree, he's like, "I have to go. I can't. My mom is sick and I have to look after her. She just called me. She's like, please, I need somebody to help me." And he's like, "No, I refuse. That's not your obligation. Your obligation is to be with me. That's what marriage is." And she's like, "I have to go. I'm sorry, I'm leaving." Okay? So she leaves. He is not obliged to provide for her for that day. And then the next day, where is she? She's still at her mum's house. So I'm not obliged to support you. Right? Now, is that a chivalrous thing to do? No. Is that a good thing to do? No. Is that teamwork? No. Is that this? Is it that? No, it's not. But when push comes to shove, right? You know, And the situations that are different, for example, right? Let's look at another way. And apologies, we're going on tangents now, right? So they've spoken about this, right? He's a reasonable guy, she's a reasonable woman, but they just don't agree, right? So there's times where he's just being horrible, and okay, and he doesn't want to give charity. That's okay, but there's situations where they are both reasonable people, but they just don't agree. So they sat down, they spoke about it once, twice, three times. He's like, I understand that your mother has a medical issue. I understand that she needs help. However, I need you to actually be here. I don't want you to do that. Okay. So now she just goes anyway. She's like, I'm sorry, I just can't follow, I just can't do what you're asking me to do. Right. So number one, she's sinful. Number two, he doesn't have to support her. Right. And her problem is why she's sinful is because she doesn't actually understand what Allah wants her to do. It's like somebody who, for example, it's like somebody who missed Dhuhr and is now about to miss Asr. So they're quickly praying Dhuhr when Asr's about to finish. So they didn't know that when Asr's about to finish, you got to pray Dhuhr. You shouldn't pray Dhuhr, you should pray Asr, right? Like she doesn't know what Allah wants her to do, right? Because she thinks, well, if my mum is sick and really needs help, surely like I have to go. It doesn't matter. And my husband's like, fine. He's saying, no, that's not your actual obligation. So she's a bit confused about what her obligation is. And that's why you need to understand, like, oh man, when I get married, like my husband is like my qibla. That's quite a big deal. And we may agree, which is great, and we may disagree, which is okay. And it may be that he's nasty, may not be he's not nasty, but maybe he looks at something in one way and I look at another way, and I feel really, really passionate about my opinion, and I just have to listen to him because at the end of the day, that's the agreement, right? And if it's a long-term thing and it's like this is ridiculous, really, really, I need to travel now. I need to go and be with my mum. This could be her last year alive. I need to be with her. So he says, okay, well, what do you want to do about that? Do you want to stay married or not? She's like, you know, and sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's like, listen, if you ask me to do this, I can't do that. Right? You are like it just doesn't add up, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? But the point is, on a financial level, does the husband have to provide for her if she's not if she just leaves the house without permission? No, right? Okay, so I've heard from a traditional scholar that she isn't supposed to ask for permission when it comes to going to parents. Yeah, but that's i.e. there's assuming there's an orf, right? So let's say, for example, my wife, okay? My wife will not ask me, can I go outside? We're like, I don't know, can you go outside? Like it would be a strange question. You know what I'm saying? That would be like really odd. So, like with my wife, it just like I'd be like, like once I just didn't know where she was. I was like, listen, just I need to know where you are so that I can help you, right? I didn't need to, like I can't just like be somewhere I don't know where you are, right? So that's something very different. That's because that's who I am. That's who we are, right? But people are different. So what I'm trying to say is, in a situation where he tells her clearly, I am telling you, no, no, you can't leave. And she's like, well, I'm going. Okay. So it's not that she has to ask permission. Is that the question was, he says no. So it's either understood culturally that she said no, like in that culture, she doesn't leave the house. The nature of it is understood. Oh, that kind of visit wouldn't be done. Or he's clearly told her no. Like, I'm asking you not to leave the house. She said, well, I'm watching me walk out the house. Does that make sense, Sister Olivia? So every culture is different. Everything is going to be different. But when it comes to something very, very clear that it's culturally or verbally understood, then it's just, in front of the judge. Okay, it's 5 years later. Did she leave the house? Right? Did she leave the house against your will? Yes. Okay, there we go. So the judge is now going to judge. She does not deserve the financial support for that day. End of story. Right? Of course. Right? Most people, Sister Fahmiya, are their own worst enemies, right? So basically many people in authority, be it rulers, be it men, they will use authority to try and get dominance, right? So they want dominance, then they want respect, but you can't demand dominance and respect. It doesn't actually work, right? So people will use violence because in place of respect. So they don't feel respected, so they use violence because then fear is similar, right? So a lot of people do that. But sometimes it's the opposite, Sister Fahmiya. Okay. There was a brother, subhanAllah. So this is a message, this is a question that came in, and I think this is the case for many women. Um, for many women, they do appreciate some limits from their husbands, right? They do appreciate some limits. Not all women are super emotionally aware. Not all of them. And not all women are religious. So there's a situation where things are getting a little bit too social with the opposite sex. There's a situation where she's out the house a little bit too much. So there's two scenarios like this. I remember two scenarios that happened. Again, they're extreme, but two scenarios. Number one, which is extreme, was this guy, he said, basically after my first child, my wife didn't want to be intimate at all. And she had a lot of negative feelings towards me, right? We all understand that. Postpartum is very, very difficult. Many, many changes, a lot of things. Anyway, okay, we're not trying to say she's a bad woman or anything, not judging that. Anyway, so basically he said after the first child, we weren't intimate at all ever. And she actually basically asked me to leave the house. So I left the house. So I would come during the week to see the kids, and that's basically, or see the child, and that's about it. Then people used to come on the weekend, i.e., men used to come on the weekend. And she used to tell me, don't come on the weekend because I have men coming to my house. Right? So he's like, oh, my wife's telling me not to be home. So I'm like, Habibi, what the heck are you listening to your wife about? Like, why are you doing that? Like that's not healthy. That if your wife says, "Hey, I'm bringing a man home, don't come home," like, "Oh yeah, yes, Mrs." Like, what's your problem, right? So I'm like, whose fault is this, right? Whose fault is this? Is it her fault or is it your fault? I think it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's her fault. I think she's a bad person, that's true, or she's going through a lot of difficulties. I don't want to judge her, but I think it's your fault as well. Like, why on earth did your wife said leave the house and you left the house? Why did you even do that? Why did you even do that? Like, you don't actually understand how women talk, right? You don't understand what's going on. Like, you're just a very bad manager and you've made her situation worse, right? You just made her situation worse. Why do you even do that? So that was one scenario. Another scenario, which was really sad. So again, it's his fault. I not not her fault. Well, it's her fault. Obviously, she's morally responsible, but it's his fault. That's number one. Another scenario was this guy he's a convert. It was very sad. So he's a convert. I think he's Filipino convert. He's in Saudi, which is also very sad. And his wife is studying. So he's working in Saudi. She's studying in Saudi. Okay. And they have kids. She's getting very, very busy with her Quran classes and her Arabic classes. Quran classes, Arabic classes, Quran classes, Arabic classes. And they had certain discussions here and there about where she's kind of like not really doing her role as mother, etc. And obviously he's a convert, so he's going to defer to her. She's Malaysian and defer to her, like, you know the deen better than me, but like it's not really working out. Like you're not really doing your mother roles, you're not doing the house roles, etc. Anyway, she's like, whatever. They go back and forward about this issue. Then she has classes at night, okay, online. So she's going to be up like in the middle of the night from like 12 to like 3 at night with these Arabic and Quran classes, Arabic, Quran classes, Arabic, Quran classes. And then she's also going during the day to her Arabic and Quran classes. So she has classes during the day and she has classes like in the middle of the night. And it's all kind of like not really working out because she's kind of just not focused on the family. Then he goes to a meeting in a hotel. So he has a meeting in a hotel, and he goes to this hotel and she walks out of the hotel. And she's all red in the face and she's really embarrassed. She's like, "Oh no, I want a divorce. I want a divorce." And he's like, "What's going on? Why are you even in this hotel?" right? I've come here to have a meeting in this hotel. Why are you even here? And then he goes and asks like the people in the hotel, like, have you ever seen this lady before? He's like, yeah, yeah, she comes here all the time with two men. So, you know, inshallah, the guy's still Muslim, right? That's pretty hard. That's pretty hard. Like you're in a Muslim country, you just became Muslim, and it's like your Muslim wife is like, you know, it's really bad, right? It's a really, really bad situation. However, however, whose fault is it? It's his fault. 100% his fault. Because there's putting your foot down as in being violent and getting angry, and when actually putting like it's like being a parent, right? Husband, animal husbandry, right? Like looking after animals. Like, hey, the chickens got out and got eaten by the foxes. It's your fault, right? It's your fault. So things are going off. You cannot be like, oh, it's okay. My wife is doing all these random things at night. I don't know what she's doing. Like you can't be like, oh, okay. And it's like, no, that's not okay. And then she, as a woman, she's like, no, I respect the fact that I was getting into things I shouldn't get into, and my husband saved me. And now I like, yeah, you resent it in a kind of a teenage resentment at that point, but then it's like, no, this is actually good, right? And I feel like I have boundaries with my husband, and he's good. I feel protected, right? And we're not Freud. We don't believe in like the whole Oedipus and whatever complex, but to some extent, a woman wants some element of her father in her husband, right? And so it's like, yeah, he said no, that's okay, right? So like when it's like, oh, you can just do whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Oh, I was talking to this guy at work. I'm like, no, who are you talking to at work? I want to find out who you are with the work. So like I know, like we have being protective, ghayra is an important thing. It's not something silly or ridiculous. It's something real. It's good. Um, so whose fault is it? It's his fault. Poor guy. He didn't have the guidance. He didn't know, and inshallah they're still married, or inshallah it worked out, and inshallah they're good people now. But things happen. So yeah. So my apologies. We're going off. We still want to get back to the text, but inshallah. Okay. So anyway, he is not obliged to support her for that day, right? He may only she has a right to be provided for. She does not have a right to be provided for, right? So that's an important thing, right? For men, like for a man to be like, yeah, I'm not going to provide to you. That sounds like you're just very stingy and kind of weird. But for a woman, like at least respect yourself, right? At the end of the day, sister, you did something haram. You couldn't control your emotions or whatever it is. At the end of the day, like that's like being paid for a job you didn't do, right? Somebody who has self-respect, like, no, if I was genuinely sick, or I was sick beyond my sick days, right? I had 3 days sick days, and then this was not covered. Khalas, don't pay me. It's not part of the contract. Don't pay me. Why are you paying me for something I didn't do? You know? So for a woman, it's like, hey, yes, your husband, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in the Quran, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Don't forget to be forgiving and merciful and overlooking, right? So the husband should be chill. Khalas, she left the house in anger. Something happened. Khalas, let her go to mom's house for a few days. It's okay. Send her some money, ask her how she's doing, whatever. That's for the husband side. For the woman side, at least you'd be like, hey, at least I know that financially this is not my money. And the issue is then, what if he's paying it, but he doesn't want to, right? Is it halal to take money from somebody who is giving you money because it's just awkward, but they don't actually want to give you money? Is it halal? It's not halal. Right? You can't do that, right? So like when you kind of like emotionally bend someone's arm, like that's not halal, right? So for a woman, it's possible that you're receiving money that's not yours. Like that food is not your food, you know? So whatever it is. So we have to be cognizant of that. So again, where do we lose track is just the idea that I'm a woman. I have a right to walk out the house whenever I want. I'm allowed to blow up in his face. It's okay. Like that's all right. I can say no to him in bed. Like that's fine. Like that's my body, my right. Khalas, I'm not in the mood. Don't like him. He hurt me. It's too bad. His fault. Where that's not actually true. It's not your body. It's not your right to do that. Again, if he forgives, that's fantastic. Alhamdulillah, right? That's what we ask everybody, right? We have to be forgiving, right? But what if your husband isn't forgiving? What if on Judgment Day and he's not forgiving? Like, So we have to be careful about that. If the husband does something that she is unhappy about, she may tell him off. No. She may tell him to sleep somewhere else. No. She may ask him kindly to give her some space. Yes, right? Alhamdulillah, you all got that one right, basically. Um, yeah, that'd be haram, yeah. But child maintenance is going to be his obligation anyway, usually, right? So let's say for example, classic Western divorce. He's a businessman. She takes half of the business, right? That's haram, of course. Can't do that. Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, he asked me to research that. He said, like, I gave my answer, and he's like, no, research it more. Ask more muftis. Try and find something. Is there a way that this? And I was like, I couldn't find anybody that would agree on that it was halal to do that. So like, she left and now she has this house or she has this, like, you can't, that's not yours. It's haram. You can't, unless he's happy. He's like, yeah, take it. I don't mind. I'm wealthy. Bismillah. Help her out. I'm fine to give her half my money. But if he doesn't want to give her half of the money, he can't do that. Right. But for child maintenance, the default is he is always obliged. Right. Yeah. So, but paying for your child, you're always obliged to pay for your child. So, unless it's excess of what you has to pay, usually it's not going to be in excess. Usually it's less than the amount that you need to pay. You know what I'm saying? Like usually like the numbers are kind of like very little. But they might pay you might have to pay her to look after the kids, right? So I'm paying for the kids, but I'm also paying her to look after the kids. I don't have to pay her to look after the kids. Does that make sense? So these are two different things. Right? Okay. When a wife is telling her husband off for something bad or unwise that he did, okay, we have this is where it gets interesting. She should avoid labeling him, focus on productive language. Is that right?
No.
Yes. So, Sister Livia, this is what we should do, right? This is what we should do. Okay. We are humans for crying out loud. And it's very like that's one of I think, I'm not a woman. Okay. I'm not a woman. But if you think about it, that is like one of the hardest things you can possibly do, right? That's one of the hardest things you can possibly do. Like it's very, very hard. I'm like, I have to be intimate with this man who just hurt my feelings, or I feel is hurting my feelings, or I just really everything like really it's a very difficult thing to do. So men should be cognizant of that. Women should understand it's not their right. So they have to speak in a way that's not their right. Like it's like for example, I have to pay rent. Okay. I have to pay rent. And the guy said, listen, you got to pay rent. And I said, listen, I'm honestly do not have the money. I'm sorry. I don't have it. So the way I talk to him is not the way that's like, hey, get off my back. It's like, I'm really sorry. I just can't do that. Will you please forgive me? And he's like, yes or no. And I said, I'm not bending your arm here. I'm just asking you. I'm being truthful. I just can't. I'm sorry. So are you happy to be married to me in this way? And he says, yes, I can be patient. That's fine. Because if not, I don't want to wrong you, right? I don't want to wrong you. Just like I'm living in your house and I'm not paying rent. I'm sorry, I lost my job 3 months ago. I'm trying to find another job. I'm really, really sorry. I know you have a right to the money. I just don't have it. Are you okay if I just stay here for a few more months and while I'm trying to find this job? And he says, yes. Okay, alhamdulillah. But if not, then I'll have to leave, right? So you can't have your cake and eat it, right? So your husband is like, let me think about it. He's like, I'm sorry, like this is like ridiculous, you know? Like I haven't done anything wrong to you. You just really resent me, or I don't know what it is. And, you just like continually say no, or put on a fuss or whatever. So like, khalas, think about it. You want to stay in this marriage, then, you know, subhanAllah, the same thing happens for a man. If a man says that to his wife, there's a court case, right? We're going to see the verse later on. If a man says to his wife, I will never sleep with you ever again, then he's not allowed to say that. He cannot say that to his wife. If he now says that verbally to his wife, he now has two options. Either he divorces her, okay, or he takes her back. And if he takes her back, what does he have to do? He has to free a slave, right? So that's a man to his wife. What about a wife to the man, right? And so, it's very difficult. But here's the key thing. It becomes exponentially difficult when we don't have focus in our life. So, you wake up in the morning and you say, Ya Allah, help me to do my obligations. So as a woman, what is my obligation in the morning? Okay. What are my obligations? I've got to pray Fajr. What else do I have to do? I have to go to work. You do not have to go to work. Why don't I have to go to work? Your husband does. Okay. What if you can't afford it? That's his problem. Okay. What else do I have to do? Right. And so now here's the other complex thing is like, okay, well, there's kids and this and this and this. That's something obviously very relevant and important. But if we go at least to the Shafi school, right? At least to the Shafi school, at the end of the day, you're being asked to do two things today. Pray your 5 daily prayers and be available for your husband. That is your obligation today. So why is that important? It's important because life as a woman, period, is complex, right? Being a female is complex, right? Being a teenage girl, being an adult, it's complex, right? And then being a wife is super complex, right? So in order to avoid the haram, we have to simplify our lives, right? So many of us, we make our lives more complex than they are, and then it becomes, we end up falling into the haram, right? So you can just make your life simpler and say, and this is again, inshallah, we'll do a class on this, which is managing your managers. You tell your husband, I fear Allah concerning this particular obligation to you. Please help me manage it because I have 4 kids and they're all insane. Your mother lives with us and you're also asking me to work. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to look after your mother? Do you want me to do the kids? Do you want me to work? Or do you want me to be physically available? Which one do you want? Because you can't ask me to do everything. Right? So now he turns around and says, okay, good point. Now I realize I'm asking too much. Okay, prioritize this. Now it's on him. Right? But the problem is these conversations don't happen. These conversations don't happen. Things go off. During the stress of life, he brings this issue up. It turns into argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, the argument of the last decade, right? You're always focusing on something else, right? You're worried about the kids. You're worried about this. You're worried about that, right? So what we need to do is between ourselves and Allah say, this is like my life, okay? I'm not, in my life, every single day I have like 100 things to do, and I manage to get about 40 of them done. So all I do is say, Ya Allah, please help me prioritize what you want me to do. That's all. I am not a machine. I am not infallible. I need to sleep. I need to eat. I get stressed. I'm slow. I'm not very good at doing things. So, Ya Allah, I have all these limitations. All I can do is prioritize number 1. That's all. And so if being physically available for my husband or for your husband is a priority, then for God's sake, prioritize it. Because if it isn't, then don't do it, right? And again, we're kind of getting off topic. So that's what we need to do with husbands. And that's why, inshallah, we have a class on this, managing your husband. The problem is a lot of husbands are stupid, with all due respect. Like they don't actually understand what's going on at all. They're just like really annoying. So that's another problem. Like you have an idiot husband. May Allah protect us, right? Or like it's so callous, they don't understand this, don't understand that. There's many things, right? But at the end of the day, for a woman, she's like, hey, these are my list of priorities. Tell me what you want me to do. And don't come and complain tomorrow that I didn't do the dishes because I said I can either do the dishes or I can do this. Don't come complain I didn't take the kids to tennis because I can either take the kids to tennis or I can do this. I can't do both. Don't come and complain. Oh, your mum's complaining about you because you don't help her in these things. You don't go shopping with her. Say, 1 second. This is my life. You prioritize. I fear Allah concerning you. I have 100% submission to you, 100% respect for you. But you tell me what you want me to do. You want me to work? Sure. If I have to work 9 to 5, plus pick up the kids from tennis, plus take them to judo, plus cook and clean, and every single thing. So I'm doing things that are not on my obligation list, then don't expect me to do that. And then don't complain and don't be moody and don't mutter in your beard. Does that make sense? Yeah, because it isn't an easy thing, right? It isn't an easy thing. It's extremely difficult, right? No, that's totally different, Sister Olivia. So, you are not obliged to do that. Intimacy in a setting that's not appropriate. Yeah, that's not an obligation. Yeah. And certain situations it's almost like that, right? We just moved in with your parents and it's a one-bedroom flat, you know? It's, it's just like, it's very difficult. And many people live like that. May Allah protect us, very hard. Wallahu a'lam. Okay. Okay. So anyway, when a wife is telling off her husband, stop, you should never tell your husband off. So the answer is, she cannot tell her husband off to begin with. So it's like saying, so the same thing. When can I tell my dad off? You can never tell your dad off, ever. When can I tell my mom off? Right? You can never tell your mom off, ever. When can I tell Allah off? You can never tell Allah off. What are you talking about? Right? So the answer is here. Again, here, this is where our grades were not so good. She should avoid swearing. Yeah, but she shouldn't. The answer is she can never tell him off to begin with. Right? So now it's like we are just not on the right relationship. Right? We don't have the right relationship. Right? Okay, so which is worse, being rude to, so alhamdulillah, everyone got this right, being rude to one's father or being rude to one's husband, alhamdulillah, everyone got that one right. Conditioning your husband, good, right? Giving money to one's husband, very good. One of the best acts of charity, but it can never be demanded from him. Really good. Someone speaking? Zaid, were you speaking now? So I realized my volume was off, so I don't know if was anybody speaking, forgive me. If a woman who is physically or emotionally wronged can take the matter into her own hands by not giving him his rights. No, can't do that. So this is an important concept in general in interaction between slaves. Okay, so Zaid and I have an argument about something. I believe I have certain rights. He believes he has certain rights. You can never take things into your own hand. You can't do that. You can never do that. Right? You always have to the court or third party, right? So this is a clever thing to do. If you haven't already done this, do this in your marriage right now. You sit down and say, listen, we shall do marriage counseling. We're going to work out this, but we're also going to say like, hey, like alhamdulillah, this has never ever happened with me in my marriage. But when we got married, we stipulated that we're married according to Hanafi school. And if ever there was an issue of dispute, we would go to Sheikh so-and-so. And if he's not available or alive, then Sheikh so-and-so. He's not available or alive, then Sheikh so-and-so. So we have a very clear legal structure to go through. So when things aren't working, there's no communication, there's no cooperation, it's okay. We can still have a process out. But if you don't have that, it's not very clever because you don't even know how you're going to solve problems. And it can get really, really bad. A woman who does not accept the authority of her husband should attempt a more customized and loose thing. We'll talk about let's talk about that really briefly right now, okay? Because it is important. Does not understand the nature of men and women and how they bond emotionally together. So that's true. Like you all got that one, right? It does not understand. So basically, if you cannot submit to a man, you're a heterosexual lesbian. That's what you are. Forgive the language, but that's what you are. Basically, you're looking for a relationship that is not actually between the two genders. Like you don't actually, it's so a woman who doesn't want to submit to a man is like a man who likes a woman who is straightforward. Like I just want a woman who knows exactly what she wants and speaks her mind and is not like this and like that. So which woman is not like this and like that and speaks her mind and is straightforward 100%? So there are men who are like that. Men are like, oh my God, my wife's like so crazy. It's like, Habibi, That's what a woman is. Like, that's what a woman is. Like, that's her nature. So you're actually you're like basically the what you've in your mind, you actually want to be married to a man, right? And that's what, one Norwegian psychiatrist said. He said in Norway, the only happy men are homosexuals. Meaning what? Meaning they're not really clicked in their head. What is the nature of a man? What is the nature of a woman? How do men function? How do women function? And how do these two things come together? So then that never clicked, or it's being changed or weird. And so whenever they have whenever they see things from their wife or their girlfriend, whatever, it's kind of like, this is random, or this is weird. Like, I want a man in my life. So this man wants a man in his life. Similarly, you know, you want a woman in your life. That's what you're looking for. So a husband that, for example, will go shopping with you, that will, have fun, do this, do that. But you don't believe in leadership, or you don't believe in any level of dominance, and you see dominance as something bad, then you're basically like a lesbian, right? And you're lesbian undercover. You don't actually realize it, but that's what you are, right? And so many lesbians will be like that. They'll be a product of abusive men or over control. And so they're reacting to that, right? They're going to be reacting to, like, I don't want to have that kind of relationship. But then there's people who are in the middle, right? Which is many people, whereas you kind of like, you want something, but you don't want something. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's kind of like, no, it's like, no, you have to embrace that. Like, I have to embrace the fact as a woman that I'm going to be married to a man, and at some point we will disagree. And at some point he's going to say yes, and I'm going to say no, and that means yes. Or he's going to say no, and I'm going to say yes, and that means no. And I'm okay with that. I can do that. That is part of my relationship with Allah and part of my relationship with my husband. And I value that. I value that, right? As opposed to somebody who's like, no, 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 we always have to be on the same page, and that's it. Yeah, that's because if you that's yeah, that's true. If you were actually married, right? But I'm trying to say is people who keep forcing false paradigms on the man-woman relationship, they're continually frustrated, you know? So let's say, for example, I go to my wife and I'm like, I I just feel really depressed. She's like, "Oh, what's wrong?" So you're like, "I just want to study, Like, I just want to like read books of fiqh and hadith. Like, I just need like 6 months, a year off, And, so what do you think? She's like, "Oh, yeah, I totally." And then I'm like, I think I'm going to speak to a therapist about it. So then I'm going to talk to a therapist about my need to like just read, and maybe I need to go on like a hike and just spend more time and like relax. And she's like, "Well, what do you think? Should I work and you just like think about life and read fiqh books your whole time?" Right? And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be good." And she's like, and I'm like, "Oh, you're so supportive." Right? That is a that's where my wife is the husband and I'm the wife, right? Can you see that? Like, that conversation is off. It's just off. So it's like, yes, she obviously, the wife supports the husband. At the end of the day, Habibi is like, life is stressful. Man up. That's your job, right? Oh, you're depressed. Like, okay, but you gotta work and gotta do this. You gotta do these things. Like, that's your job. You are a man. It is physically easier to be a man than it is to be a woman. Then do the work, deal with the stress, and do the two jobs and do all these things. And that's just what men do, right? And so when you have these like really weird conversations, where it's like, that's like weird, right? Um, or I'm considering changing gender. She's like, well, yeah, let's investigate this. I feel like deep inside I'm probably a woman. She's like, yeah, okay. It's a very So do you think she's going to be happy in that relationship? I don't think so. That's not that's not the nature of things. It's not the nature of things. I remember my friend joking, he said, it's kind of silly, right? Like, there's some silly things that we see, right, between men and women. Is like, there's a sound at night, and then the husband gets up, look with the torch, and oh, it's nothing, and lies down and goes back to sleep. That's a fundamental thing about being a husband and wife. It's like, who protects who? Even though there's nothing happening, right? There's nothing happening. But just the fact that he got up and he assured everybody everything's okay. There's a war going on. It's all going to be okay. We've just lost my job, but it's all going to be okay. Right? This is like this is a fundamental thing. So there's certain fundamental things to do with men and women. And if you, as a woman, you're like, nope, I don't want any man telling me what to do ever, then you're basically that's what you are. So even if you're attracted physically to a man, you're essentially a lesbian. You're not actually like you're not emotionally heterosexual, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be a happy person, right? It's not going to work. So it's accepting nature, right? Accepting nature as it is. This is the reality of men. This is the reality of woman. Accept it, embrace it, and you'll be happy. But if you don't, you're continually fighting fitra. You're fighting nature, right? Just like the transgender will never be happy, right? They're never going to be happy. A horrible thing. May Allah protect us. So anyway, so that's the true. Okay. Now, in reality, most people are not able to understand the nature of men and women. So, in which case, yes, she should attempt to have a more customized and loose contract. I honestly believe in that, right? It is not Islamic, but I honestly believe in that. In my How to Get Married in Islam class, I have a whole section on that. And so there's certain things you can do. So number one, don't live with your husband. Just have him pay. Number two, stipulate the right to divorce. If X happens, Y happens, Z happens, a million things. So you just have this. So now going back to the intimacy issue, right? They've been married for 2 years. In the first 6 months is all great, and then this happened, then that happened, and now it's like actually she's frequently saying no. Like I just don't want to do that. So she's like, you know what? I want to have the right to say no. Okay, great. How can you have the right to say no? By divorcing yourself. It's not a problem. So she's like, oh, really? So yeah. So he's like, I'm not happy in this relationship where like basically we're married. I'm we agreed that we're not going to live together and we're going to meet up on the weekend. We meet on the weekend and you're always like, no, let's just have coffee. Let's just do this. Let's just talk. And you're like, yeah, but you know, this should also happen. And so then she says, you know what? I don't want to be forced into this, nor do I want to take somebody's rights. So yeah, she can divorce herself. So it's a bit like, so it's basically a halal boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Simple as that. But again, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't say, I want to be married to a man, have the right to say no to him, even if he's not happy about it, and just keep going. You can't. So you could have a husband who's like, listen, yeah, I'm cool. If you're not in the mood, that's fine. If I don't want to pressure you, that's cool, right? So that's great. Alhamdulillah. Everyone has agreed to overlook their rights. That's great. But in the situation where he hasn't agreed to overlook his rights, now you just want to stay married and be supported and it's not like that. It's not like that. You know, that's not fair. Particularly when they have a fairly mercantile relationship, right? They're not living together. They don't have kids. He just gives her a stipend, and they meet up in different places because they're traveling for work, whatever. And they're cool, but like hey, we're gonna meet up in Paris this time, and they meet up in Paris, and she's like, yeah, I don't want to do anything. And it's like, okay, but like at the end of the day, I am paying, and so it's like, what are you paying for? Like that is a physical need that somebody has, right? So, and vice versa, right? Yeah, somebody who's like, no, I don't want to be physically intimate with my wife. It's like, well, let her go then, for crying out loud. She's a woman. She's of the daughters of Hawa, of Eve. She's like any other woman, you know. So, may Allah protect us. Does that make sense? So basically, I honestly, so for a Western woman, I mean, a Western woman in the West, right? And the West is kind of growing, right? But let's say a Western woman in the West, I'm a professional, I'm in my mid-40s, I don't need to live with some guy. I have kids, I have this, I have my life, I don't need things. He can just give me a stipend. Like this is the equivalent of what he would pay for my rent, what he would pay for my food, electricity, whatever. And there's extra income. And khalas, we meet up here and there. But I have a right to divorce myself whenever I want. Fantastic. Is that Islamic? No. Is it good for a woman? No. Because she'll probably divorce herself in a situation where it's not good for her. However, it does temper it's a temporary solution to an awkward situation that we're in. Does that make sense? Right, sisters, would you agree? Right? Can you imagine, for example, cousins, friends that you have who are religious or loosely religious who'd be like, yeah, I can do that. I can have a halal boyfriend. Right? It's like we are actually married. We just meet up and that's it. Just like any professional who has a boyfriend. Like, yeah, I'm not with my boyfriend all every day. I'm a professional and we meet up now and then, and that's it. Sisters, would you agree? But Sister Ma'ab, the issue is, so the situation is like this, Zaid, okay? I'm a woman. I don't want to be in a relationship with a man who's going to be saying, "Where are you? Where are you tonight? Where are these things?" I don't want to have that relationship. I just want to have a relationship where I just see him when we want to see each other. You know what I'm saying? So basically, we're married. I don't need him to pay my rent. I'm not going to live together with him. I don't need him groceries and things. We're not actually going to do marriage as you see it. We're just going to be a halal relationship. You're going to pay me a stipend for my rent, for my whatever, and we just meet up now and then, you know. And she has a right to divorce herself whenever she wants, but she doesn't have a right to have her cake and eat it. Right? I don't want to give you your rights, but I also want my rights. That's not, that's not okay. Does that make is that clear now, Zaid? So here's this. So I can think of like countless sisters who would be like that. And in fact, countless sisters who'd be like, you know why I would never get married? Because it's so complex, right? You're gonna have to tell the whole family. We're gonna have to hold this wedding. I don't want to have kids, right? Yeah, that's totally fine. So would you agree though that does that take the pressure off the woman? I only have to see this guy once a week. Yeah. So okay. So for a woman, okay. So for a woman seeking this, a Western woman seeking this, it makes sense. Why is she doing that? Because she's taking the kufr, the kafir system, and putting it in an Islamic situation. For a man doing that, why is that fundamentally wrong when a man, A, doesn't want to build a family? Okay? Doesn't want to build a family and just wants to see somebody now and then. Why is that fundamentally wrong? So for a woman, I understand it, particularly a Western woman. As a Western woman, I'm religious. I understand the deen is right, but I just can't practically live like that. You know what I'm saying? I just can't practically live like that. Like it's just too weird. I became Muslim in my 40s. I have like I remember my one of my friend's mums. Like she would come back like on the weekend. That's it. She wasn't even home, so she's not there for her kids, let alone her husband. She's a businesswoman. You know. So like I honestly don't have time for a husband, but I do want to have a halal relationship. So what's my middle thing? Okay, it's called a marriage, but and you can have it something like this, right? But so why is that? So why is a mistyar marriage fundamentally wrong for a man? I'm not saying it's haram in itself, but it's fundamentally wrong. What is a man supposed to be doing? Lacking responsibility. What's he supposed to be doing to society? He's supposed to be building society. You're not building society. You're supposed to create and sustain society. Okay? You're supposed to create and sustain society. So that's not you're not sustaining society. It's halal, okay? Not the end of the world. I'm busy, you're busy. We both have busy schedules. I don't have time for a family. You don't have time for family, but we want to have a halal relationship. Okay, it's not the end of the world. But the default is basically you're not being a man. That's what it is, right? That's the basic picture. Like men support, provide, structure. That's what you're doing. You're a manager. You're not managing. right? You're not managing. That's like when you applied for a management role just to get an increase in salary, but you had no intention of actually going like that. So that, you know, the regional manager asks you like, so what are your plans for like for this department? They're like, I don't know, what's the salary? Like, what? Like, you're supposed to have a vision. You're supposed to come in here and create something, right? What is your vision? You don't have a vision. So why are we paying you? You know? So it's not for a man, it's problematic. For a woman, I can understand it, particularly a Western woman, right? Yeah. So it's not the end of the world, Amania. Not the end of the world. Okay. Okay. So having another wife, that's something else. But again, that's a problem. So what if you have it you so here's one of my friends, he said this. He said, my main wife. Is that acceptable? Can you say you know, my main wife? Is that an acceptable statement? Like there's a wife that he lives with, and then there's the side wife. Is that acceptable? That's not acceptable. I do not respect that at all. Even if they all accept it. You shouldn't accept it. So Habibi, you're there, you're a man, you have a right. Polygamy is a right, fine, but you're creating society. Go and create society. Like you're not creating society, you're long-term scarring society. Don't do that. That's not respectful, right? Anyhow, let's go move on to the last question. Da, da, da. Lecturing one's wife and correcting her faults on a regular basis is very good and noble. No. It's probably a bad way to improve the situation. Yes, right? It's not a very useful thing to do, right? It's fine when it comes to his rights. Yeah. So there's a certain point, right, where you have to be clear about certain things. But most of the time, with kids and with your one's wife, we have to overlook every single thing again and again and again. Are your kids respectful to you? No. Are your kids obedient? No. Is your wife respectful to you? No. Is she obedient? No. That's that's an important thing. Like that's just So if you're like, hang on a minute, every single thing that she doesn't do, you're pulling it out, and you're like, then forget about it. And again, you don't understand what a woman is. You've fundamentally misunderstood what a woman is. Saving the marriage is the job of the man. Saving the marriage is the job of the woman. So why is it the job of the man? What's the job of the man in society? He's the manager, A. B. He's the shepherd. Society, what's he trying to do in society? Sustain it. So for the woman, she's got her hormones, she's got her emotions, she's got the house. It's not actually her job, right? It's not actually her job. So here's classic ethnic Muslim thing. The marriage fell apart, point the finger at the woman. But in reality, it's not really the case, right? Creating, sustaining society is the men a role is the role of the men. So it is his job essentially. Now, is it really his job? Can he let it fall apart? Can he let the marriage fall apart? Is it haram to do that? So he got married. After 6 months, he was like, yeah, it's not really going anywhere. And he couldn't be bothered. They didn't do any counseling. He's just like, I just can't be bothered. Is it actually haram in itself? Like it's haram? He got married, didn't like it, had a few conversations, like, oh, this is annoying. And just like, he could have fixed it. He could have actually put it in the right direction and made it go somewhere, but he just couldn't be bothered. It's not haram in itself. Um, you know, her first signs of PMS, he divorced her, right? First, as soon as the baby was born, she's like, this is boring. Don't like it, right? I mean, it's not haram in itself, but again, looking at the role of men, it is essentially the man's job. It is not the woman's job, right? Can often start with a man swallowing his pride, 100%, right? Can often start with a man swallowing his pride, 100%, right? So men, if you don't swallow your pride, you got serious problems, right? You're just going to be divorcing every 2 minutes, right? Starts with a woman no longer tolerating nonsense from her husband, to some extent, but not really. Starts with the genuine repentance and dua, of course. Starts with the man putting his foot down, sometimes, not really. Can often start with a wise woman using her true femininity. Very good, right? So as we mentioned before, it's not that it's on her shoulders, it's that she actually has a little key that he can't use. If that makes sense. You know? There's often she can do things, and sometimes, honestly, it can't be solved because there's just too many pressures. This, like, you look at people like, oh, my parents like this. Look at your parents' generation. Like, that was actually very hard. I'm looking at my grandparents' generation, right? World War II and stuff like that. It's kind of insane world they came out of. So it's like, don't judge people. Okay, inshallah, we'll stop here. Um, let's go on, inshallah. We've spoken about this label enough, inshallah. We've spoken about all these things, and we will, inshallah, we'll come back to these issues. But again, most of what I'm saying is, most of what I'm saying is like, just read the Quran, read the Hadith, read the Seerah, and it's going to be obvious, right? Why is it not obvious? We don't read the Quran, we don't read Seerah, we don't read the Hadith, and we brought up in Disney and Hollywood, and all the paradigms are off in our heads, right? Inshallah. I'll stop here. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I still think you're all misogynist though.